What's up, Storm fans? Bryant Cook here, and today I am sharing with you my Pioneer Lotus Field Combo Deck. This is the second installment. Last year I uploaded the deck for the first time, and I'm just happy to be back sharing with you my favorite Pioneer deck. But before we get into that, this is the fourth installment of this 10 deck series. Every single day I am uploading a different deck showcase showing you my physical cardboard cards. If you're interested, the three previous installments were Legacy the Epic Storm, Modern Lurrus Lotus Breach, and Pauper Cycle Storm. That's it. That's my intro. Let's hop right on in. So, right off the bat, we have our 3 copies of Lotus Field in the main deck, because the 4th is in the sideboard for Wish, and then we have our 4 copies of Thespian Stage. These 8 lands really are the foundation of the deck. We are looking to copy Lotus Field, cast Hidden Strings, and do our thing. That is how this deck functions. Yeah, if you're interested in getting these cards signed, I did it this year. It took about 6 months for them to go across the pond over to the United Kingdom, have John Avon sign them, and then for them to come home. So expect them to be gone for a little while, but it's certainly worth it. Look how beautiful these signatures look. They're just drop dead gorgeous. So I think it's worthwhile in the long run. And one thing that you may notice is this isn't the original printing for Thespian Stage. My Pioneer deck is the first deck that I've ever done this with where I didn't go with original printing. Pioneer is a sort of unique circumstance where it's the only format where you can get everything with the new stamp. So that's sort of what I'm going for here. I understand that's a weird theme to go with, but I thought it was interesting, so I am going for all hollow stamps. I don't know why I decided this, but I did. And so yeah, these are Ultimate Masters copies in Thespian Stage and not Gatecrash, just because they have the stamp. Other than that, I think that's all I have to say about these. It took me a while to get my copies of Lotus Fields. Like, I had to piece them apart. Just like find one at a time until I got the full play set. I kind of regret not getting a second set before they spiked, because now they're like roughly $40 each for Japanese foils. And I would like a second set so that way I don't have to switch between Pioneer and Modern. That said, I've only played my Pioneer deck once in paper, so maybe it's not worth it. In my area, Pioneer just isn't that popular, so it's no fault to the deck. It's just tough time finding events. And then over here we have Blast Zone. There's actually another one in the extras down below. I just got this back this month from Chris. I'm not even gonna chance pronouncing that last name. It's just I'm not gonna do it correctly. Let's just move on. And it's sort of been a staple in this deck. There's a time period during the Breach era where 2 was really common, and then since then we've gone down to 1. I've even tested lists with 0, but I don't think I'd ever play more than 2 copies. Just being able to find it off of Sylvan Scrying has a lot of value. And then we come down here, we have our Botanical Sanctums. I've had trouble getting a hold of Christine Choi to get these signed. From my understanding is she doesn't sign at all. I'm not sure if that's true. I've never gotten a response out of her, so maybe it is. I'm not quite sure. Maybe one day there will be a group signing. And the prices on these were pretty wild. I got my first one at $10, the second one at $20, and then these two I spent $35 each on. It's just no one had them when I was looking for them, and I eventually just buckled and bought these. I'm not even sure what they're going for now, but who knows what the real price is. And then down here we have the red version of it, Spire Bluff Canal, signed by Adam Paquette. And these took forever to come home. Like, they were gone for over a year, but they finally came home. They're back. Originally got them for Modern Gift Storm, but that deck's sort of dead now, so who cares? And then over here we have our Tri-lands, our Ketria Triome, Sam Burley. These were only gone for like a month or so. Like, they came back pretty quickly. I do have a full set of them, and they're just great for supporting the red splash, because you really do need all your lands to cast blue and green spells. So the fact that it also taps for red as an additional bonus is nice, because you need blue for things like Shimmer or Baral or whatever, but then you need green for Sylvan Scrying, so you can't really afford to run something like Sheltered Thicket instead, just because you miss out on the blue for the Shimmer or whatever. So I think the Triomes are sort of the perfect middle ground in my opinion. Then down here we have the check lands. These things were such an improvement, not needing to play Yavimaya Coast anymore and deal yourself damage in some of those more aggressive matchups like Burn. Instead, you just get to have it all. What an upgrade for this deck. I do have to get them signed. No excuses here. I just haven't been able to get into a Daniel Lundgren. I don't think I said that correctly. Signing. And then down here, Lucas Denkeek. I got these signed when I sent my copies of Galvanic Relay. Lucas said that I was the first person ever to have my card signed, so that was pretty sweet. And I sent over a set of Balagad recoveries, which worked out. The card with hidden strings with a brawl in play, I like to call it Cabal Ritual, because you end up spending 3 mana in order to generate 6, so it's the same, plus amount. But yeah, Cabal Ritual is pretty great in all formats. Down here we have our Valakut Awakening. That's how my list wins. Every single game we are looking to cast these Peer into the Abyss, then cast Wish, put a Niv Mizzet in play, and then cast Valakut Awakening to essentially cycle through our deck. So you put a bunch of cards on the bottom of your deck and then you redraw them, dealing your opponent a whole buttload of damage with Niv Mizzet. And then these Peers, these are actually on the way back to me right now. Well, not these physical ones because I scanned these, but the ones that I sent out last January, they're finally coming home. Unfortunately, they didn't arrive in time for me to add them into this year's deck showcase, but I'm so thrilled to have them back. I love Peer into the Abyss. It's such a sweet card. It's the only card in the deck that I play that is bad when you're not winning. Because a bunch of people like to play cards like those silly Forks or Lear, where they're not actually good at setting up your combo. And I believe that you want your cards to be good at both phases of the game, setting up and mid-combo. Peer's the only card that I allow to break that rule because it just wins the game when it resolves. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It just wins. So that's why it's worth playing Peer and not a bunch of those other silly cards. And then down here, we have Brawl to reduce costs in our deck. It's not super popular anymore. A lot of people run the Ultimatum builds, but Brawl doesn't work at reducing Ultimatum, which is why. It's not because Brawl isn't very powerful. We're not running Ultimatum because we're running a wish-based strategy, which allows you to find your Lotus Fields more consistently. And it's not as weak to things like Mystical Dispute. So we are running extra Brawls. And the main idea is that it allows you to go turn 1 red tap land, turn 2 Brawl, turn 3 you can play Wish into Lotus Field, and it accelerates you into it, because you can't play land on turn 3 and Wish in a Lotus Field because you can only play 1 land per turn. So Brawl actually picks you up 2 turns in advance by playing it out early, which just makes it so good in this version. A Boreal Grazer. Look at these signatures. They're so awesome. Shout out to Jason Rainville. I love them. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what the price point on these is anymore. I got my set for like $4 each, but I got them a while ago, so who knows. But the card's so good, I even tried it in Pauper recently, in the Pauper Twiddlestorm deck. So it's certainly got legs. It's a powerful card. Obviously, it sees a ton of play in Modern with the Amulet Titan. Sylvan Scrying. And these are the only versions that have these silly little stamps, so that's why I'm playing them. Yeah, like I said, I'm going for all stamps if possible. Once again, Christine Choi, who also did Botanical Sanctum, need to get these signed. Shimmer. And Shimmer is sort of a card that comes and goes a little bit, because traditionally the Ultimatum builds run Shimmer because A, it digs for Lotus Deeper, but B, you don't end up milling any of your crucial combo pieces that you want to get with the Ultimatum. And I've adapted that philosophy to this version of the deck because we're not playing Dig Through Time. Neither does the Ultimatum build. So, well, I guess I play 1 in the board, but that's sort of beside the point. But yeah, Shimmer just digs deeper, and that's what you're looking for. You're just always looking to assemble A plus B, and why wouldn't you want to play the card that gives you the greatest odds of doing that? So props out to Shimmer. Terrific card. Yeah, moving on. Hidden Strings. The ritual itself, this is the best mana generator in the deck. With Brawl in play, it only costs 1 to make 6. Pretty powerful, and you can always Cypher onto Brawl as well. A lot of people forget about the Cypher mode on this, but it just generates so much mana with your copies of Lotus Field and Thespian Stage. I do still have to get them signed by Darkin. There's a signing coming up in December from Matthew Schneider. You can find their group signing information in the description down below. But yeah, sort of the card that makes this deck go round. And then we have our Viziers. These scanned really darkly, but it's a powerful card. So essentially, in this deck, it is Desperate Ritual that draws a card because you spend 2 mana to make 3 mana, but then you get the additional draw. So think of it like Gift Storm when you don't have a Brawl in play. It's very similar, except you get that added bonus of drawing a card. Some people even try in Modern. I don't think it's quite good enough there, in my opinion. It stops you from running Luris, and I think that's the biggest knock against it. But also, it's another one of those cards that's only good when you're winning, and I'm just not. I don't think that's where you want to be, in my opinion. Pour over the pages, super powerful card. I originally got this for a standard mill deck, believe it or not. There was a Sphinx's Tutelage, I believe it was the format at the time, if I'm remembering it correctly, and it was good in there. So I got them signed by Magnali way back when. How far we've come. Yeah, not a whole lot to say about this. The card's just phenomenal. When you have 2 Lotus in play, usually a Lotus and a Thespian stage, it's +1 mana. But when you have Brawl, it's +2. It's usually best to think of it when you're casting spells that way because it allows you to do the math just so much faster. And then the card that this version of the deck is centered around, Wish. So it allows you to get your sideboard win conditions, your sideboard peers, your Lotus. And that's sort of one of the things that I like about this card is that it does everything. In the other builds, they tend to run Fae of Wishes, but it's so clunky in comparison, and Wish can be used as a setup to get Lotus, which I think is just a little bit better. Theoretically, you could with Fae of Wishes as well, but it's just ultra slow. And then down here into the sideboard, we have our Fading Hopes. I've recently made a bunch of videos on this card and how it's improved playing Lotus Field Combo against Winota, but also the Thalia decks, because they play a bunch of indestructible prevention effects now, or, well, indestructible effects to give their creatures, indestructible or whatever, and Fading Hope gets around that while not losing to Winota. But it also answers things like Avalon of the Great Revel against Burn, which is pretty great. And then down here we have our own copies of Mystical Dispute to battle the blue decks, mostly for hitting Narset in my opinion, but there's obviously a bunch of cards that you can hit from Thing in the Ice to opposing copies of Mystical Dispute. And then Wilt. This is a card that I recently added back into my board because Lotus Field has just been crushing a lot of events recently, and people are sort of gunning for the deck, so Deafening Silence has come out of the woodworks. Same thing with Damping Sphere. We have to be able to answer those. And then down here is the end of our sideboard. We have that sideboard copy of Lotus Field that I talked about previously. We have Fry, and Fry is for killing Narset. You want some sort of way to remove her from the game if she happens to slip through the cracks. And with a Wish in play, with a Brawl in play, Wish and Lotus Field together cast the Fry, because you tap for 3 red, and then that 3 red just, removes the Narset from the game. I sort of messed up my wording on that. I apologize, but I imagine that you sort of know what I mean there. And then we have the Anger of the Gods. Once again, the only version with the stamp on it. Probably never going to get this signed because it's by Noah Bradley. Unfortunate. I'm sort of just hoping that they print a better effect at some point. I'm already down to 1. Let's see if I can get down to 0. And then Ryan Yee. I actually have 5 copies of Dig Through Time I need to get signed, but Ryan Yee has been playing COVID very safely and not signing, so I need to get him done once Ryan Yee is comfortable, and I completely understand that, but I am looking forward to having those signed. Niv Mizzet, the win condition in this deck that I've mentioned previously. Svetlin Velenov, I do need to send these out to get signed. I missed the signing earlier this year because I only had 1, and I'd rather get them both signed at the same time so they have matching signatures. For last year's signing, I actually talked about in the article how I had them on their way to me. That package ended up getting lost and I never got it, and I had to rebuy everything. So I bought the pair of nibs back then for $10 each. I ended up buying these 2 nibs for $60 each. So it's sort of a feel bad that lost mail cost me a bunch, but Niv Mizzet's worth it. He's just a badass. He does everything. I've had so many opponents concede to Niv that it's insane, so definitely the win condition I'd like to be playing. A lot of you will probably ask, what about Thassa's Oracle? I was playing Oracle, and it just turns out that Niv Mizzet's better. It does everything. It's good on its own. That's sort of it. And then the sideboard 4th copy of Peer into the Abyss. Playing your favorite combo deck in paper just got so much easier with the Epic Storm Mini Token Pack. You can pick one up at theepicstorm.com/shop for $13. It includes 64 double-sided mini tokens. That's 128 tokens total. And they include 10 black, 10 blue, 10 red, 5 green, 5 white, 3 colorless, 20 storm counters. That means that you can count your way all the way up to 20 for Grape Shot, everyone's favorite Stormwind condition, a Galvanic Relay Exile Indicator, 4 treasure tokens for Strike It Rich, and then 10 monk tokens for our vintage friends. It also has Slime Time Live, Ave Progenitor Ooze tokens with the power and toughness already built in to make playing in paper so much easier. No fumbling around with dice. We've got you covered. Make sure to go grab those if you're playing Modern. And then Squirrels versus Goblins, Chatterstorm versus Empty the Warrens, the Battle of the Ages. You definitely need 20 Squirrel tokens and 20 Goblin tokens. You're going to love this mini token pack, I promise. And once again, you can grab that at theepicstorm.com/shop. Moving on to our extra cards. So down here we have our Fave Wishes / Granted, signed by McNally as well. They're more popular in the Ultimatum builds at this point, but I've played them a lot. I've also tried builds with the no wish effects, but I think Wish is powerful enough where I'm willing to play them, but I'd rather run no wish effects before I ran Fave Wishes. And then Lear. I did pick these up for this and Modern just to test them, but ultimately they're sort of win more. By the time that you could cast this, you're already winning, which is part of the problem. And people are like, well, you could just like chain your hidden strings in your pores over and over. That is technically true, but this card also dies to Rending Valley, which is super popular right now because it kills Winona. Why turn on your opponent's removal when you can just play Peer into the Abyss and win the game, right? Like, I get that you like doing cool things, like forking your Pour Over the Pages or casting Lear is really awesome, but it also just opens you up to losing to like random cards, and they're only good when you're already winning, which is just not what you want out of your cards, because like what happens to the games where you stumble? Like you just get buried instead of having a chance to win. So do what you want. I'm gonna quit preaching. Let's just move on. Passes Oracle. I do need to get the second one signed. I got the second one for Doomsday, but you never know when you're going to play it in this deck. Back during the Breach era, it was the win condition, so you never know. Yeah, moving on. And here we have Omniscience, signed by Jason Chan. I got these done this year, and I think that they turn out super well. Back immediately after the Breach banning, I was playing builds with 2 of these main deck, and I even played a build with 3, and now I'm on just 0, which is kind of wild. The way that this deck has changed over the last year is honestly quite remarkable. We went from playing 3 copies of Omniscience to 0, to the Ultimatum builds that then played 2, to then down to 1. The card has come and gone quite a bit, but this deck, just like so many cards have changed, where I realized when I was talking about Oracle, I forgot to upload my Jace. I also have the Jace that wins the game that I could have uploaded, and I just blanked on it because my mind forgot that it was a Pioneer card. So I'm sorry. My 4th copy of Brawl. Void Snare, I do need to get these signed by Zach Stella. I'm sure that will happen this year. The 4th copy of Fading Hope. Consider. I actually uploaded a video with Consider in it today, so if you it went live yesterday if you're watching this, so you should definitely go check that out. It is a straight blue-red Is It Lotus deck with 4 copies of Consider. Definitely check that out, but I think the card really has legs in this deck. People previously were trying Opt, and well, Consider's just better, so definitely go look at it. And then Strategic Planning, not seeing play in this specific build, but it's good in dig lists. So if you're playing digs in the main deck, you definitely want Strategic Planning, and I'm not against playing them again in the future, because I do think dig is a super powerful card. And then obviously down here, we have the extra copies of dig, and then Enter the Infinite. So Enter was played in the very early list that I played with this deck, back during the post-Breach era. So, like I said, there's a lot of stuff in here, in how much the deck has changed. Enter was used pre-Peer, and then once Peer was printed, people just quit playing Enter the Infinite, which rightfully so, it makes a lot of sense. The extra copies of Wilt, And then down here we have Thought Distortion. I don't think that these actually work that well in the Wish build because you have to cast everything in one quick motion. So that means even with a Brawl in play, you have to have 7 extra mana and for everything to resolve. Like, it's sort of just like a big ask. So I don't think that Thought Distortion is good in this build. I think it's just better to run an extra copy of Mystical Dispute that's also more flexible, because you can board in Dispute versus decks like Spirits, where Thought Distortion is just hot trash. I'm not actually a big fan of Thought Distortion. I know that a lot of people like it with the Ultimatum builds, but I'm not even convinced that it's that good there. That said, it doesn't hurt to just own a couple copies. And then down here we have additional copies of Sweepers, The Anger of the Gods, Storm's Wrath. And Storm's Wrath was important because it kills Winota, but it also killed... There was a Planeswalker that it was important that it killed like a year ago when Mono Green was really popular, but I can't think of it off the top of my head, which led to a lot of people playing Storm's Wrath. And by that, I mean Mono Green Devotion. Can't remember now. I'm sorry, I'm just going to move on. And then over here we have Hour of Devastation signed by the artist. And unlike Storm's Wrath, it gets rid of that indestructible effect against spirits, and it deals 5 to each creature in each planeswalker. So pretty similar, except it crushes spirits and other indestructible effects. So possibly better against the current builds of Winota anyway. Emergent Ultimatum. This build is centered around getting Omniscience, Peer into the Abyss, and Pour over the pages. So no matter what they give you, you can screw over your opponent. The downside is, as you might have seen in my more recent Lotus Field video, what if you draw the Omniscience or the one of main deck Peer? Things get a little bit awkward with this card. So I do like it quite a bit, but I think that the Wish build is just better. Ultimately, pun not intended, I think if you could combine Wish into the version with Emergent Ultimatum, that would be ideal. Because you wouldn't have to play Fae of Wishes, you wouldn't have to run funky cards like Omniscience, but as of right now, I don't think there's a way of doing that. Alright, we're getting close to the end of this. Tormod's Crypt. This was more used when Oops was a popular deck in the format, and then since then it's been removed. So you never know when a popular graveyard deck will come back, but if it does, you do have Wish into Tormod's Crypt as an option. Ratchet Bomb was really popular during the Breach era, and then has sort of fallen off. And it originally fell off because the Mono Green Devotion deck was playing Karn, and then it's just never come back. It's possible that this is just the best card for getting rid of Deafening Silence and Dampening Sphere now, because Karn isn't really played. So maybe we should look back into testing out Ratchet Bomb. And then Ugin. Ugin's actually a card that I've cut recently, which was a staple way back when. Even during the Breach era, a lot of people played Ugin. Post-Breach, people played Ugin. But it always felt a little bit more like a Winmore card, and now people just don't play it anymore. Because if you could cast Ugin, you can usually just peer into the win. And if that isn't the case, then they have Narset, which you probably just want to answer the Narset anyway with like a Fry or something. So I'm sorry, Ugin, you're a beautiful card. I did get the version with the stamp on it, but I just don't think you're good enough anymore. And then down here, I was a little bit bummed when these came back this month. I got these back last week from Kieran Yanner. They signed the fronts, but not the back of my check lands. So I'll probably have to send these out again in the future to get the back signed. I was a little crushed once I noticed, but not the end of the world. Really cool signature, though. I do love it. The extra Paquette Spire Bluffs, and then the Sam Burley Tri-Lands that I talked about. The Yavimaya Coast. Once again, the first version with the stamps on it. And then our temples. And I think the temples look super sweet. They also have the stamp on them. I think if I wasn't running red, I would be running these, but because you get the free equity off the turn 1 Green Source Grazer Scryland. But I think when you're running red, you're not allowed to run temples. Okay. I did try Ragrin Triumph. I don't think I said that correctly, but let's pretend I did for a little bit, because I was running main deck Approach of the Second Sun, and it allowed you to beat a Damping Sphere by tapping a bunch of lands over and over. So this was something I tried in the middle of this year. And then we have our Cycle lands that were more popular back during the Breach era, but you never know. They could come back at some point. The extra copy of Blast Zone, and what is this called? I have it on the tip of my tongue. Grasping Dunes. There we go. And I picked these up very recently because once they announced Thalia was going to enter the format, I bought these. Because it's a tutorable land that you can use to kill Thalia. But what I noticed is all the decks that play Thalia have indestructible effects, which this gets around, but they also have effects that make Thalia larger with like Lumeric Aspirant or Rangers, whatever. So I don't think Grasping Dunes is the answer, unfortunately, but I did think about it for a little bit. I tested it. It wasn't bad. It's just it wasn't great either. I think one of the secret things about it not being great is that it costs you your land drop, and so often you just need to assemble Lotus Stage that you don't have an extra turn to kill something with Grasping Dunes. And then Ipnu Riverlet. This was played during the what is it called? Why can't I think of it? Devour? Is that it? I can't remember. The black creature that removes your deck from the game, then your graveyard becomes your deck. I think it's Devourer. Um, yeah, so that combo you would use this to deck your opponent. It was always fine. It was never great. It was like a decent Sylvan scrying target. And then 2 basic lands. These are the only basics that I use that aren't from Invasion, just because I was going for this new frame, circle, whatever, stamp theme. So congratulations, you found my loophole. These do not have stamps on them, but they're from the same period. I actually chose the island because I played a lot of the mono blue paradoxical outcome deck in standard, and that was the island I used. So I just wanted to use it again because I really liked it. So I then went and got the forest as well, and then got it signed. So that is the deck. So I forgot to scan the Jace, and then I purposely was too lazy to scan my copies of Underworld Breach and Tome Scour. If you want to see those, definitely go check out the Modern Lurrus Lotus Breach video there and there. I just didn't want to pull them out of that deck because I already had put it away. And then down here, I have our previous uploads that you can go check out, as well as the token pack. And then what sleeves I use, I highly recommend Hard Perfect fits if you don't use them. They actually flatten foils over time. They're super great. Definitely go check those out. And then, you know, other things that I use. But I'm not being paid to shelve these stuff. I just think that they're the best products on the market. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my Pioneer Lotus Combo deck. I certainly love playing it. I do think it's the build of Lotus that you should be playing if you're going to play the archetype. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and keep storming. Hey, Bryant Cook here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, but also follow the social media channels down below. If you want to support this content directly, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/shop. And if you need a little bit of assistance with the Epic Storm to get to that next level, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/tutoring. Don't worry, there's more great content coming right up.